Okay, hello ACT prep people. I just made a video on the science section, so this is a video on the math. And I will append the test B04 math test showing all of these tricks and ideas. So number one, for the math test, there's 60 minutes for 60 questions. It's one of the most straightforward pacing sections. If you're at question 40, it should take you about 40 minutes. However, the good people can do the first 40 problems in probably 25 to 30 minutes because they're going to take more time on the last ones. But for an average person, if you're on question 50, you should be at about 50 minutes. And some students work slower than others. So make sure if you do not have time most of the high performing people are going to finish. But if you don't have time, make sure the last 5 minutes that you do select a letter of the day. And you can go back and change those if you need to. So LOTD, letter of the day. So, like I said, the first 40 questions are usually easier and the last 20 are more difficult. That is not always the case. They stick some easy ones at the end, so you do need to make sure that using your pacing, you get to the easy ones at the end. And there's some hard ones at the beginning. Don't waste your time. Don't sit there, don't fret about it. Just guess a letter and go on. And there's a lot of tips. Number 3, pita. I love eating gyros and Greek food, and they use these folded breads. It's like a really thick tortilla called a pita. Well, in the ACT, it's called plug in the answer. P-I-T-A. P-I-T-A. If you don't know how to work the problem out, they give you the answer, and we'll see that later on in the video. It's like A, B, C, D, E. The answer's there. It's like a statue. The statue is there inside the big block of marble. All you gotta do is chisel away the unnecessary pieces so that you have the beautiful solution inside. Number 4, the other video shows the formula reference sheet, and just basically I tease my students. I say, on this test you'll be fine if you remember everything you've ever done in your entire life. And then I'll also joke with them and say, yeah, it's a pretty easy test. I passed the 3rd time I took it. And they're like, yeah, whatever. A good dad joke, old teacher jokes, dad jokes, I'm full of them. But basically know all the formulas on that reference sheet. And like I said before, it's basically algebra, geometry, a little bit of trig, and common sense and using your calculator. So number 5, take the ridiculous answers out of play and then make the reasonable estimates rather than blindly guessing. And we'll see those tricks later on. Number 6, how can I review all the math I forgot? Because I know you did forget some. First, watch the YouTube videos for tricks and solutions. My YouTube channel, I used to have a flash drive where I downloaded all of them, but now with COVID, I can't really say, here's the flash drive. Hope you enjoy the COVID. I haven't had interaction with people, so I've just posted these on my YouTube. Okay, so watch those YouTube. It's like 30, 40. I've been updating them, so I don't know how many, the latest rendition, how many I have. It's like 30 or 40 videos and probably 10 to 20 hours of videos. Great. And some of it's mine, but most of it's free from other people. They will review your math. And another way, second, work with me or another math teacher or tutor for about an hour. It just helps you can interact, and just watching a video is cool because you can rewind it, but you can't ask a question of a video. Number 7, they give you space on the side of the test, so use it. If they give you a picture, use it. If you don't have if it's a weird word, and like draw a picture, make diagrams, doodle. And I've read several articles, and I can't remember the name of the note system. Anyway, it's doodling, and you write notes on the doodles. Okay. If they give you a picture, use it. Often you don't have to solve the math problem. Use the picture to give reasonable estimates from the scale of the triangle, quadrilateral, circle, whatever picture they give you. So if they give you a picture, use it. If they don't give you a picture, make a sketch, because most people are visual, and sometimes that cue you can see a pattern. It's really, a lot of it's pattern recognition. So sometimes drawing the situation will help you see the pattern. Okay, I'll stop here and we'll append the other test on there. Okay, hello. This is the mathematics section of test B04 for April 2019, how to work these ACT problems. And I'm going to go quickly through this because you can always stop, rewind, and rewatch parts of this. Number 1, solve for x. Move the x to the right, add 13 to both sides, x equals 3. Number 2, it's 14 per hour times 40, and it's 1.5 times that for 8 hours. So total of 728. Number 3 is a very common question, and it's a linear relationship, not a squared relationship. So they want you to model things with g of t, and I just said, well, every minute it's going to be 4 gallons less. 200, 196, 192. So it'd be 200 minus 4t. That's the slope. That's the y-intercept. G of t, it decreases. Okay, and number 4, when you multiply exponents of the same base, you add the exponents. Very quick, easy problem. That's why it's number 4. Knowing your exponent rules. Number 5 is geometric sequence. In a geometric sequence, you're multiplying by the same number every time. Here, they're changing signs, so it's multiplying by -2. So when you do that, the 6th term is going to be positive 384. And can you see you can mark off A and B at the beginning, and just the only possible answers are C and D, and you're multiplying by 2. Very quick problem. Number 6, it says how many miles per hour, but then they ask for minutes in the problem, so I just did 50 miles over 60 minutes equals 120 over x, and you can cross multiply to solve x equals 144. But let's just pretend like you didn't know the math of this. You'd say, well, it's a little bit more than twice the miles, so it's a little bit more than twice the minutes. So a little bit more than twice 60 is more than 120, and only one answer has that. So these are all ridiculous answers. If you just write down the proportion, it's easy to solve. And number 7, you're just subtracting fractions to get 3 3/4. And of course, you could use the decimals on the calculator very easily. Either way works. Number 8, if you watch my other video on solving using Pythagorean theorem, you saw my Pythagorean triples of 3, 4, 5, and this is just going to be a 30, 40, 50 triangle. You can solve it all the way down there, but if you're just knowing the 3, 4, 5 trick will save you 30 seconds here, and if you keep saving 30 seconds everywhere, you'll eventually add up to some. Okay, let me stop here.
What, you want to learn something?
Yes, I do.
What, you want me to teach you something? You want to learn something? All right, here's a useful lesson for you. Give up. Just quit. Because in this life, you can't win. Yeah, you can try. But in the end, you're just going to lose big time because the world is run by the...
Okay, number 9. 450 parking spaces. 8% are reserved. That means 92% are not reserved. So I took 8%, 0.08 times 450, minus the 18 that are suitable for compact cars only, blah, 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 396. Number 10, a lot of times when you're like, you know, sometimes a picture's worth 1,000 words. And I just drew a little diagram. It says a gardener is planting 7 in a triangular plot. The first is 1. It grows by 2 each time. So that's really an equation of 2n minus 1, and the sum of a series of that is n squared, but let me just draw the picture here. It's 1 plus 3 plus 5 plus 7 plus 9 plus 11 plus 13, and you can verify for yourself. When you add these together, that'd be 4, 2 squared, that'd be 9, 3 squared, that'd be 16, 4 squared, and so forth. So 7 squared is 49, or just add them up. But having that sense of numbers, that number sense, can make this a little bit speedier. Number 11 is very common. I call this PETA, plug in the answers. And you just evaluate an expression. Of course, 8 over 2 is simplified to 4, and you can easily make the mixed number improper, 103 over 25, which would be 4.12 on a decimal if you had a calculator. Okay, number 12. I've seen this very similar problem occasionally. What is the least common denominator? So 21, 12, and 8, and you can plug them in. Obviously, that's too big and that's too small, and these are just right. So you just keep evaluating, and you can multiply times 8 times 14 by 21 to get 168. Earlier, I talked about on a previous video the sum of interior angles of a polygon. S equals 180 n minus 2. Here the formula is given. Just evaluate the formula. 1440 equals this. Solve n equals 10. Number 14 is a good problem because it is a early problem, very simple concept, but what they want you to do could be very difficult. What an algebra teacher would want you to do is take, this is a 4 by 6, add x, this side is going to be an unknown x, and say x plus 4, x plus 6 equals 48. Put it in standard form. factor and solve and get 2. Now that is okay for some people, but a lot of people are like, man, that's complicated. So just look at the picture. This side is 4. Well, that means that this piece over here has got to be less than 4. It's just the picture, and a lot of times they're to scale. So ignore these two. And a good thing to do is say 6 times 4 is 24. The area is twice the other area. The big rectangle is twice the area of the small rectangle. So I said, well, it's 24 and 48. So try x equals 2, and it's going to work. 4 plus 2, 6 plus 2, 48 is twice 24. Very simple problem, but you could see how solving it algebraically would take more time. So I think PETA, plug in the answer, is your best key here. However, I'm a math guy, so I went ahead and solved it anyway. Still good practice. Number 15, they often have reflections and translations. Got it. Number 16, again, you can solve this on the calculator. However, if you have the sense of numbers and you can say 9 times 6 is 54 and say it's an x plus 9, x minus 6, they want you to be able to factor this quickly so that the solutions are negative 9, 6, and the sum is negative 3. And notice how they put negative 9 and positive 6 in there to trick you. But you're going to be prepped, so you're going to know how to work this. Okay, number 17, just try it out, and you just get, if the certain square is 36, the square root is 6, so just plug it in. Number 18, I like this way to cancel. Take the 4, take the 5, take the 6, and take the 7, and they all cancel. And then you take 2 8s is 1/4, 3 9s is 1/3. It's 1 over 12n. Number 19, 3% is 0.03 times. You basically have to know scientific notation. And if you have a calculator, you type in 1.539 exp4 to get the exponent. Number 20, very common SOHCAHTOA. And do you notice how they don't want the answer? They want the expression. So you do SOHCAHTOA. Tangent is opposite over adjacent, not the hypotenuse. That'd be sine or cosine. So tan 35 equals x over 10, cross multiply, 10 tan 35. Very common. Number 21, again, I just solved, pause it and read it. I just solved it with PETA. I did 3 times 40, 8 times 4, 12 times 40. And when you know, the others work too, but which could not work. So the 3 works, but the 8 doesn't. So number 22, the measures of all the angles of a circle is 360. So if these are the same, 2x plus the 106 plus the 64 is 360. Solve x equals 95. And before you even solve it, do you see how this is bigger than these two? It's like, hey, it's got to be a little bit less than 100. It's sure not 42, but those are reasonable answers. But the exact solution is 95. Number 23, a linear correlation should go through most of the data. However, this line does not go through the data. To make it go through the data, you increase the slope and lower the y-intercept. So B. Okay, 24. And if you see my other videos on probability, when you do an and, you multiply. When you do an or, you add. So 0.2 plus 0.6 is 0.8. Just knowing that fact very quickly. Number 25 is another SOHCAHTOA. And if you remember the Pythagorean triples, you could save yourself a little bit of time. You're like, well, duh, look, see the number 8 pop up? Oh, yeah, 8's one of the answers. You don't have to solve Pythagorean theorem. You should know the 8, 5, 17. So if the cosine is 15 over 17, the other side, I'm sorry, if the sine is 15 over 17, the cosine is 8 over 17. Okay, pause this video, and I want you to read through this a little bit. This is a challenging, beep, 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 pause. This is a challenging question. And I remember when one of my students came in and said, Mr. Hood, can you work this problem? I'm like, oh yeah, I can work this problem. So let me work the rest of this. Number 26, it says the median of the 10 Hitchcock films released before 72. So you go here, and they're not in order. They kind of are, but I took the big, small, big, small, or big, small, big, small, big, small, and it's between these two. So the median is the average of these two middle numbers, 124.0. In this one, how many after 1965? Well, there's only 4 after 1965, and it's 2 out of one word title. There's 2 of them, topaz and frenzy. So it's really 1/2, but 2/4 is the right answer. And this says 20% shorter, so it's 80% of the original. So 0.80 times 128 equals 102.4, which is approximately 102. Now, this is the crazy one. 29. Pause right here. Beep, beep, beep. Don't let this beat you. It's like, oh man, that's a hard question. And I did initially try to solve it algebraically. But what I did is I started plugging in the answers, and you can see how I said this one plus this one plus this one, and there's 2 family plots. They said there's 2, you watch it twice, and you get, this one is 5 minutes longer, and it's got to be about 1, 2, 3, 4 movies have got to be about 120 or 130 minutes each. So 2 of them is like 240, 250. That one's obviously wrong. And then when you start plugging them in, only A works. So what you need to do on this one, don't let it kill your time. Say, if I don't see it immediately, I'm going to circle it and go on because I know you're going to find some other problems later on. Number 30. If you haven't watched the matrix videos on my other playlist, please do so. When you add matrices and subtract them, you just add or subtract the corresponding parts. If you wanted to multiply a matrix, watch that video. You'd multiply this row times this column, and that'd be this index. So look at matrix multiplication, because that's like the 40 or 50 level problems in the test. So here you just subtract these 2 numbers, and notice you don't do all 4 numbers because that's stupid. You get the first 2 numbers and I'm done. So it's the -6 and 4 are not really needed to answer the problem. So please don't work it out all the way. Just find the answer and get out of there. And this one, if you have $50 in pennies per bag, that's 100 pennies per dollar divided by, so you keep dividing that by 50 and 100, and you get 2 million bags of pennies. That's a lot of pennies. 32 is a very simple problem. You cross multiply, but what they don't want you to do is solve for x or y. They want you to evaluate the quotient. X over y is 11 over 17. You can see how I got it there. It takes longer to PETA. So a lot of these, they want to test your knowledge of algebra and your speed of algebra. Number 33. When you add a vector, it's like head to tail, and you can watch videos about vectors. But you do u plus w, so you go up and over, and then you go minus v means go backwards. You're still going to be in the first quadrant, so it's up and right. Number 34, take half of 11, which is 5'5", with 5.5 feet, 5'6", plus half of 4 is 2 inches, 5'8". Number 35. This is a factoring problem, and it's going to be k times r, but notice there's only one plus pattern. That's all they're really asking for. Hey, if this is plus plus, it's got to be a plus plus when you FOIL or distribute the 2 binomials. Number 36 is so doggone simple. People make it hard. When you write the numbers, just divide them out. In 0.150, there's 151. Everyone answered, a lot of people answered, not everyone, a lot of people answered K, because like 151 is bigger than 15. Well, not if you write 1515. The 1515 is bigger than 1511. Just be sure to be careful and write it out. Number 37, I've seen this graph come up a lot. You have 3 rises, but when you go across, you don't count those points. When she was traveling. So 1, 2, 3, you're only traveling during 6 hours, not all 12 hours. So it's you add 270, add them up, divide by 6, and it's 45. If you took average velocity in physics, you'd see that too. Okay, pause. This is called a composite function, where you're taking the function g of x and then evaluating that. So it's going to be f of whatever means I take whatever squared plus 2. Well, that's whatever. So when you square x plus 3, you have to FOIL it out. X squared plus 6x plus 9 plus 2 is plus 11. And only one answer has plus 11 at the end. Very simple problem once you learn composite functions. Number 39. This took a little bit longer to solve, and it's a simple triangle problem, but see how there's 2 n's here? I didn't have a letter for n, and there's x, because measure of angle ADB is ADB. First I solved for n, got 39, and then I plugged that back in to solve for x, which is 71. And notice how it's not 60 or 100. It's an acute angle, not obtuse. And it's like, wow, these all three are similar. So yeah, they have to be very similar. Number 40. When you have f of 4, that is equal to, not less than, but it's greater than or equal to. So you evaluate this function, which is -5. Okay, 41. Here we go. Number 41. You're going to solve a trapezoid, and it's 1/2 the b1 plus b2 times height. And it says, well, you don't know the numbers, so I either make up a number or you can actually put an h in and just the h cancels in the factoring. I plugged in let d equal 15 because if that's 10, that's got to be less than 40. I picked 15. You could pick 20. It doesn't matter. And get the area 750 and 75. It's a 10-to-1 ratio, but you can plug in with variables, and the h would cancel in the height. Okay, number 42. When you solve logarithms, if you go Math Alpha Math on your TI-84 calculator, it'll pop in log base 5 of 25 squared, which is 625, and you get 4. And then you set 4 equal to 2x, set x equals 2. So your calculator will evaluate this log, but what your algebra teacher wants you to know is, hey, 5 squared is 5 to the 4th. Bring the 4 down, 4 equals 2x. That's a lot quicker way. But your calculator will get you this problem if you know how to use the logs, Math Alpha Math. Number 43. Okay, we're taking a big square minus boop, 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 boop. 4 quarter circles is 1 circle. So it's going to be 36, because that's 3 each. 6 squared, which is 36, minus pi r squared, and the radius is 3. It's 9 pi. 36 minus 9 pi. Number 44. If you know that sine over cosine is tangent, sine over cosine equals tangent, then you could solve this if you've had trig, and remember it, of course. Okay, number 45. A shirt has a sale price of $30.40, which is 20% off. This is the trick. Instead of 20% times x and then subtracting x, I did 0.80x. That's the same thing as 100 minus 20. 0.80x equals 30.40 divided by 0.80. X equals 38, and you take 0.20 times that, which is 760. Number 46. This is also a sine and cosine graph, because when you have a circular function, it's called the unit circle, and you probably learned about that in pre-calc if you had it. If not, just say, hey, I start at 10 and go up 4, because that's at the very top, and you go down to 10 and down to 6. So it starts at 14, goes down to 6. Okay, that graph matches 14 down to 6. So the answer is G. Okay, this one I cannot teach. If you've played Dungeons and Dragons, an icosahedron is a 20-sided figure, a 20-sided die. So it says each vertex is shared by 5 faces. So I counted the edges. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then keep going. There's 18, but there's 6 that share. If you rotate this around 180, you'll see the other side, which also has the same 6. So I did 18 times 2 minus the 6, which is 30, not 36. So that's why 47 is D. Okay, 48. Given a equilateral triangle, if you chop it in 2, I think there's a formula on one of the formula charts about a equilateral triangle. I just chopped it into a 30, 60, 90. And that's 1, 2, rad 3. Area is 1/2 base height. So 1/2 times 2 times rad 3, which is just rad 3. Number 49. If you have, there are 3 dots out of 20, it's 0.15. It's a 15% probability. Number 50. It says will not be drawn. If it's will be drawn, it's 4 out of 24. The not is 20 out of 24, which is 5/6. Number 51. Okay, if you've seen, like in chemistry, talk about the weighted average of an isotope. You take the mass times abundance plus mass times abundance. Here you're taking there's 20 tests with a 74 and 25 tests with a 92. So there's more smart people than dumb people in this class. So it raises it. It's not an average of 74 and 92. It is this weighted average, and it's slightly skewed from the 83 to 84. So the answer is 84. Number 52. It's like this is a complicated way it's set up, but if you just draw a picture, when in doubt, just draw some like spaces and draw some tables. So if the median is 80, I'm going to put the middle number. And if the range starts at 90, goes down to 79, then I add, it didn't say what is the other missing number. The other missing number is 79, but they didn't ask that. They said average the three together and it's 83. Okay, 53. The other videos about combinations, permutations. If a club has 30 members, you get 30 people on the first one, but now there's only 29 people to pick from. Then there's only 28 people to pick from. So it's an n minus 1, n minus 2, kind of like an n factorial problem. Number 54. Again, if x is the numbers of years lived, 1/2 of j equals x and 3/5 m equals x, and I just solved. They don't want a number, they want an expression. Again, this is teaching your tricks of algebra skills and how to set variables equal to each other. Okay, number 55. If you take 7 to the 126th power, your calculator does not show that many decimals. So what I had to do is like start a table. 7 to the 1, 7 to the 2, 7 to the 3, 7 to the 4. And when you go to 7 to the 5, oh, I see the ones digit has a repeating pattern. 7931, 7931, 7931. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. And if it's 7 to the 126, 120, 124, they're all going to end in 1 for the 120, 124, 128, because they're multiples of 4. So that's like go 2 more over because it's a remainder. It's even, but it's not 7 or 3, it's 9. It's a very tricky problem, but you just got to see a pattern. When in doubt, just start writing down some numbers, trying to find a pattern. This is pattern recognition. And if you haven't seen my video on the ellipses, go find that video and look at or Google the equation of the ellipse. And if it's x minus h squared over b squared plus y minus 5 squared over a squared, a is 4. So you go up 4 from this center point and over 3 from that center point. So this one says my center is 0, 5. There's my center, 0, 5, and go up 4, so it's 0, 9. Center 0, 5, A is 3, B is 4. Again, this is a weird question, and first of all, it takes a long time to read. But I just said, hey, if you have 90 equally spaced dots, you're seeing if it divides evenly, right? So 90 divides by 3 evenly, divides by 4, divides by 5, divides by 6, does not divide by 7. That's the odd man out. It's not divisible. Okay, number 58, it's like you have to read and parse a bunch of information, and it took a while, but you could see how I said take the number of inches, divide by 0.45 inches to see there's 16.66 files. You can only have one whole file, so there's 16 total files. 16 times a 6 is 96, there's 4 left over, and 4 times the 0.45 is 1.8 in the partial drawer. Obviously, it cannot be thicker than 7.5 inches, so they're all valid numbers. Tough question, that's why it's number 58. Number 59 is a bugbear. What they're doing is, can you factor? They're checking your ability to factor quickly, checking your knowledge of algebra and your speed of algebra. So the x plus 3x minus 3 needs an x plus 6 as a common factor, and this one needs an x plus 3 common factor. 3 times this plus 6 times this gives you 9x plus 36, and only one answer has 9x plus 36, with the 3 factors on the bottom. Number 60 is your knowledge of what fractional exponents are. X to the 1/3 is x to the 1 with a cube root. X to the 5, y to the 5/4 is the 4th root of y to the 5th, which you can pull one y out and leave one partial y. But if you get common denominators of 3 and 4, you get 12ths, 4/12, and 3/12. So it's x to the 4th, y to the 3rd, the 12th root that with the y outside. That's a very complex problem for exponents and roots, but that's why it's number 60, testing that ability. Okay, thanks. Hope you had a great, hope this helps you.